It can seem like you're in a wintertime rut if you're stuck on automatic settings with your camera. This video will help you get out of that rut and spring into the pro features to improve your photography. In a previous video, I talked about using the Sony DSC HX400V out of the box and putting it up to your eye. What I was getting at was that if you're new to photography or new to the camera, you can benefit from shooting on the fantastic automatic settings of the Sony until you gain some experience and are ready for the professional features of the camera. Sony's advertising for the HX400V encourages you to shoot like a pro, and that's what I'm doing here too, once you're ready. If you've used the automatic settings, you're most likely pleased with most things, but a little uneasy with others. With the camera telling you how the pictures should look, you might feel a little stifled creatively and wish to try your hand at making the kind of photo you want. On automatic settings, you're limited to what the brain in the camera says the pictures should look like, while you might be ready to use the brain inside your skull to paint the kind of photograph you want. There are many ways to do this. I'll get into the most important settings and how to get to them. With a knowledge of the settings, you should be able to decide what you want your photos to look like and then execute the photos so that they look as you want them to. First of all, there's the mode dial. There are 4 settings on the mode dial you should be concerned with if you want to shoot like a pro. First of all, there's the manual M, which is what most pros use. With this, you control the shutter speed, the aperture, and on this camera you have to use another setting to control the ISO, since the DSC HX400V won't use auto ISO. Next, there's the shutter. That controls the shutter speed. Next, there's the aperture. That controls the aperture. Next, there's P for program. That's almost an automatic setting, but you do have some control over other things, like the aspect ratio, whether you want to use standard or vivid, and several other settings that we'll get to later. When using the mode dial, decide what sort of photo you want to shoot and then decide which setting you should use. If you're still comfortable with automatic settings, you can keep it on P. P will set the shutter speed and the aperture for you, while you can control a few of the other things, like whether you want to use standard or vivid or several other settings. If you want to use the A for aperture, you can control your depth of field. With this camera, your greatest depth of field is f8, but it does go down to f2.8. You change that by turning the command wheel here. I don't know if you can see that, but you can go all the way down to f2.8, which gives you a nice blurred background and emphasizes your subject. That might come in useful if you want to shoot a portrait out in the woods of a friend of yours and emphasize your friend. In some situations, you want to switch to S for a fast or slow shutter speed. The fast shutter speed will stop action if you're shooting a moving animal or if you're shooting sports. A slow shutter speed you can use if you want to blur a waterfall or something like that. Once again, you use the command dial to change your shutter speed. You can go all the way up to 4,000, or you can go all the way down to, this takes a while, 1/4 of a second. Next, if you want to switch to manual and do things all on your own, you can once again switch both the shutter speed and the aperture by turning the command dial. In this case, you can raise the shutter speed. If you want to increase your aperture or narrow your aperture, you toggle by hitting the bottom of this dial, the control dial, and then use the command dial up here to switch all the way up to F8. Let's get into the menu items now that can help you shoot like a pro with a Sony DSC HX400V.